Was Napoleon Bonaparte's meteoric rise to greatness an incredible streak of luck from a man who knew how to be in the perfect place at the precise moment, or the result of accomplishments from a brilliant leader who engaged with society and politics the way he did enemies of war? Could any son of France just as easily have stood in his place? Or did his unique qualities allow him to walk the fine line between divine emperor of the French and common citizen of an emerging France? In this series, we will discover how Napoleon's incredible mix of character and circumstance combined to give rise to a boy who would one day lead the vanguard of man in the fight for freedom, carrying its colors into the modern era. We will reveal how Napoleon mixed ancient government, tradition, and philosophy with cutting-edge political, military, and Enlightenment theory to accomplish greatness and so much more, establishing an empire that lasted barely a decade, but would change mankind forever and go down in history with those of Alexander, Caesar, and Charlemagne. If Napoleon fascinates you as well, hit like and subscribe to see more Napoleonic videos on our channel. Napoleon Bonaparte's French Empire was carefully crafted to differentiate itself from the recently dismantled regime of the French kings, while simultaneously adopting the tradition and symbolism of the Greek and Roman empires of antiquity, as well as the more recent Carolingian Holy Roman Empire, which was neither holy nor Roman. Distinguishing his reign from the Bourbon kings at one end of the political spectrum and the violent revolutionary government of the radical Jacobins at the other was like herding a camel through the eye of a needle. He needed to firmly establish the rights and Enlightenment ideals that the common people fought so hard for and give concessions to the conservative aristocracy, who were the backbone of France's economy and had been ruthlessly hunted and guillotined for the crime of remaining loyal to their king. And all of this needed to be accomplished while the monarchs of Europe formed coalitions and plotted to remove him from power through war. In many ways, Napoleon's meteoric rise was a circumstance of an inconceivable streak of luck and coincidence. In other ways, he was the perfect candidate to fill France's empty throne where a king once sat. In his own words, "I did not usurp the crown. I found it in the gutter, I picked it up with my sword, and it was the people that put it on my head. He who saves a nation violates no law." Napoleon was born in 1769 in Ajaccio, Corsica, just months after the French had annexed the island from Genoa. His family belonged to the minor nobility. They had a noble title, but no wealth or influence in French politics. This made him socially mobile, but still an outsider to the aristocracy, especially in Paris. This unique set of traits made him both a common man and one of nobility, allowing for both conservatives and revolutionaries to accept, or at least tolerate him later in life. His identity was a hybrid, noble enough to command respect, yet provincial enough to relate to common soldiers and citizens. This duality let him connect across class lines and sell himself as both a savior and a servant of France. He was born shortly after France acquired Corsica from the Genoese, giving him a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. Not quite French, but not quite foreign. His father was a close associate and confidant of Pasquale Paoli, a Corsican nationalist who spent his life advocating for an independent Corsica. These circumstances made Napoleon a nationalist at a young age, understanding the fight for citizens' rights, as well as the disdain for French tyranny. He was a very bright young man and an avid reader, mastering Enlightenment authors like Rousseau and Voltaire at a young age, and giving him intellectual grounding in revolutionary ideals. His reading also helped him to understand the power of image and myth. He was fascinated at an early age from the symbolism of the ancient empires and was swept up by stories of great military leaders like Alexander, Caesar, and Hannibal. At age 9, Napoleon was sent to France for the first time, enrolling at the prestigious Royal Military School at Brienne. Though mocked for his Corsican roots and accent, he excelled in mathematics, history, and artillery theory. At 15, his father died of stomach cancer, leaving Napoleon at the head of his large family, despite having an older brother. The burden of supporting his mother and siblings forced him to grow up quickly and gave him an early sense of responsibility and ambition. He transferred to the École Militaire in Paris, where he completed a 2-year course in 1 year, a testament to his focus and discipline. His military education gave him both technical skill and an intellectual framework that would define his early campaigns. Unlike aristocratic generals who bought their commissions, Napoleon rose on merit, and this gave him credibility in a revolutionary France that distrusted privilege. This military meritocracy was a system that he would later use to fantastic result when filling empty officer positions and elevating accomplished leaders to the status of Marshal of the Empire. After graduating military school at 16, Napoleon was immediately accepted into the army and commissioned as an artillery lieutenant. Now needing to attend to his responsibility to his family, who had become essentially financially destitute, Napoleon returned to Corsica during the early stages of the French Revolution. Still deeply influenced by his early admiration for Pasquale Paoli, he hoped to help reform Corsica under the new French Republic. But he quickly found himself at odds with Paoli, who had grown hostile to the revolutionary government and was now courting British support for Corsican independence. Napoleon's loyalty had shifted. While once he saw France as a colonial oppressor, he now saw revolutionary France as a vehicle for progress and merit. The split with Paoli grew bitter. The Bonaparte family was labeled traitorous by Paoli's followers, and having become a target of a vendetta, a traditional duel to the death between Genoese families, they were forced to flee Corsica for mainland France. Napoleon was exiled from his homeland and scraping by in a country filled with chaos. Still, a great opportunity came later that year, when he was assigned as an artillery officer during the siege of Toulon, a key port city that had been handed over to the British by royalist rebels. The Republican forces were disorganized and struggling. Toulon was Napoleon's first true battlefield laboratory, and his first strategic masterpiece. Where older, more decorated commanders hesitated and flailed, this 24-year-old artillery captain calmly surveyed the terrain and recognized what no one else could. The enemy's lifeline was the harbor, and the harbor could be strangled from the hills. The French army did not need to capture the town, only to disrupt the port. He positioned his artillery with surgical precision, orchestrated overlapping fields of fire, and broke through the enemy's defenses with a multi-pronged assault. His plan didn't just work, it obliterated the British position and forced their fleet to evacuate. He had not only achieved victory in his first command, he had achieved what most French generals thought impossible, and defeated the Royal Navy of the British Empire in battle. He had just rewritten the rules. Toulon was a turning point. His success caught the attention of powerful figures in the revolutionary government, including Paul Barras, and his promotion to brigadier general occurred at just 24 years of age. Overnight, Napoleon went from a displaced Corsican outsider to one of the most promising young generals in France, and everyone in Paris was paying attention. Was Napoleon's empire the result of luck, circumstance, or something more? Let us know which side you're on in the comments below. Part 2 will evaluate Napoleon's life as a young general in revolutionary France and his early campaigns in Egypt and Milan. He was commanding hundreds of thousands of men at just 25 years of age and managed to find the Rosetta Stone buried in the sand in Egypt and crowned himself King of Milan during this era. Many relics and artworks owned by Italian families, towns, and the Catholic Church were looted and remain in the Louvre in Paris today. The soldiers in his army of northern Italy were a ragtag group of French revolutionaries when he took command, many of whom could not fix their uniforms and were marching around barefoot, marched home from Milan back to Paris with gold rings, chains, and pocket watches on, as well as various gemstones adorning different parts of their uniform. Rumor has it that Napoleon paid his soldiers so much in back pay at one time that they were forced to buy expensive metals, jewelry, and gemstones in Milan, instead of marching all the way back to Paris, carrying all the weight of the silver and copper coins. Right or wrong, true or false, it's still a great story. We'd really like to hear your thoughts on this video so far in the comments below. Did Napoleon's slight nobility help or hurt him in life? Could anyone have been Napoleon? Were the traits he was born with more important, or was it the characteristics and habits that he developed in life that mattered most? Let us know what you think below. Before you go, hit like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and be sure to check out our video on the legendary cavalry charge at Somosierra and the first-person account of an Austrian officer who was on the Pratzen Heights at the Battle of Austerlitz. I'm Connor with the Motion Visual. See you next time, and vive l'Empire.